Welcome back, everybody. Part two with the Line Movers Network. Ian Robbins and the tutor. I'm David Dorman. Last part, we got into a little bit about the toughest losses, the worst beats we took. Ian, let's go the other way. What are the good times? Let's talk about the good ones. Let's hear the big ones you hit, because I know you play golf and you're great at golf. And that's not him. That's me bragging. Just unbelievable golf mind. And I've seen and witnessed him hit these outright. So, Ian, I think you're going golf, are you?
Yeah, I'll talk some golf a little bit here. So, the Line Movers guys know me as a golf guy, golf handicap guy. The sports pool guys probably know me a little bit from playing a lot of tutors pools and car pools and help them out with some of the NFL stuff. But golf is, from a betting standpoint, I've been betting my entire life doing this. Last couple of years, golf's been my go-to. I had a couple nice ones. So I've hit multiple triple-digit winners. So last season, Cameron Champ came in at 150 to 1, won the 3M.
Juicy.
What's that?
Juicy.
Yeah. I think you were on that one with me too, David, huh? So that 150 to 1 was nice. Won a couple of the bracket challenges, but golf. So Sepp Straka had him at about 125 to 1 to be the leader at the Olympics after the first round, which hit. Cam Davis won his first tournament, the Rocket Mortgage, at 110 to 1. So a couple nice triple digits in there. Had some nice over in the DP World Tour, the European Tour. John Catlin 80 to 1, Aaron Riot, bigger shots. Biggest DK hit came in golf too. I was with Tudor and a couple of other buddies, Andy and Mike, and we had a nice one at the Scottish Open. We max entered again, talking about that max entering, and we came in third in the big contest there with our boy Kurt Kitayama coming runner up, Xander. So that was a pretty nice Scottish Open there for us. Close, very, very close. Couple putts here and there, maybe put us on top. But one weekend in particular memorable. This is right after my son was born. In the summer, tennis has been one of my first passions, playing and betting a little bit. A couple years ago, I had Barbara Krejcikova. I bet a couple futures a couple weeks ahead of time, and this was before she was a top doubles player, so I knew her. She was coming in about 300, 400 to 1. Took her a number to win the French Open that year. This is 2 years ago, I believe. Ends up making a run, wins the lead-up tournament. Obviously, odds drop, but I still got that. She makes an unbelievable run and totally dominates her way and wins the French Open. And I remember going back and forth with David about this one. It's just an incredible run. Now she's a top 10, top 5 player. She's won multiple majors and doubles and French Open champion. I was able to sit on that ticket, and it was amazing. And that was probably the biggest ticket I've hit. But to throw in a little bit more to that weekend, my guy Garrett Higo, who had just won a couple on DP World Tour, came over to the U.S. for his first PGA Tour event. He was about 55, 60 to 1. And I was just telling people, like, this guy is so much better than everybody else. He just won on a DP. He's 21. People don't like, this is a perfect course for him. Ends up winning. This event was at Congaree. Ends up winning that tournament 55 to 1. So that was a pretty memorable weekend as far as outright hits. If any of you play horses, had some nice exactas. I think exactas are the big payouts, and those are always fun. But Barbara Krejcikova will always live very well for me. Kurt Kitayama for our DK sharing over there as our 1% guy, and Cam Champ, third champ. Cam Champ will be for that 150 to 1, that big ticket. I think that's the biggest call fight I've ever hit right there. So some fun.
Great stuff. That's awesome. Let's go back to the mailbag. Ressa Farsi.
What about mine?
Oh, I didn't know you had one. Hit me, Tudor. What do you got?
So there's not a lot of people that know this story. Man, 3 or 4. I don't know. It was a while. It was 3 or 4 years ago. I accidentally entered a 3-man $10,000 NBA contest with probably the guy we talked about earlier, and Mo Glovin, whatever. I don't know. I think it was Mo Glovin. I was on the phone with DraftKings the whole time saying, I didn't mean to do this. I didn't mean to do this. Get me out. And they couldn't, right? So it's like almost midnight because the late games are still going, right? And I was in it still. I'm on the phone with my buddy. I've smoked my 19th cigar. I'm a nervous wreck. And it got to the end. I was in second place, and my games were over, and my heart dropped, and because I just lost $10,000, right? Like I didn't mean to lose it, $10,000, and I get a phone call with my buddy. You did it. I'm like, what do you mean? Frank Mason hit a half quarter at the end of the game for no reason that he needed to shoot it, and he made it. So I go back, I go open up, bam, $30,000.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
$30,000. And I instantly got a Frank Mason jersey. And turns out my father-in-law is really good friend with Frank Mason Sr. So I'm trying to get him, I gave him the jersey, trying to get him to sign. So I went from could probably stop gambling at that time. So that was that was the biggest hit I needed. Last year at my 40th birthday, right now to be exact, we have a casino that just opened up by us, a sports book, and you got $1,000 free match. So I put it on the Rams to win their first divisional playoff game, whatever, because I hate Matt Stafford. And I figured, well, either he's going to lose the first round and I'm going to make fun of him because the Lions did the right thing, or he was going to win. I was winning money. Well, he won. So then I double or nothing. Double or nothing. He won again. Double or nothing. He won again. Double or nothing. They went to Super Bowl. I turned that $1,000 free bet to like $14,000. So those are my two big bets in the last few years.
Those are great. That is great stuff. Awesome.
David, you got any?
Sorry, Tudor, I didn't mean to cut you off.
David,
I didn't know that was coming.
What about you, David?
I'm trying to think. The golf, probably the golf that I, follow you on, Ian, are the biggest ones I've ever hit. Because I enjoy the golf so much because instead, I like the NFL futures and the basketball futures. They got to wait so long, and you got the money sitting there for so long. But golf or tennis, a weekend or, 2 weeks in tennis on the majors, and you can hit something really nice, real big quickly. Obviously you need to hit it, but when you do, it really pays. And I know a lot of guys where their strategy is not only do they take them to win, but sometimes they back it up top 5, top 10, top 20. So even if he just got edges out at the end and doesn't come in first, but your handicap was right and the guy was in it all weekend or the lady was in it all weekend, you still cash and you can still make some money. So I like those theories, to kind of back it up, but nothing like hitting outright winners. It's the greatest.
We had a couple close ones. We had Davis Riley was in a playoff at 250-1 last year, lost to Sam Burns. And then the DK contest I mentioned that we were in with Tudor, Kurt Kitayama came in second. We had him 300-1, remember that weekend. That was another close one. But yeah, those big outrights are fun.
Yeah. Were you in the Calcutta with me when somehow I had Xander and I think Matt, and they finished 1 and 2.
I don't think it was.
I cleaned house. And I had the first and second place.
That must have been the Masters a couple years ago. I wasn't in that one.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
This kind of follows right in here, actually. Ressa Farsi, thank you for chiming in. Great question on the mailbag. Ressa says and asks, I often see in the media these crazy parlays. Let's say for the NFL, for example, someone's putting down $5. They're parlaying all 16 NFL games for the weekend, including the Sunday and Monday night games. I see they're 15 for 15 going into Monday night. Then they decide to hit the cash out button. My question is, why not just leave it off the ticket in the first place and you won't get paid as much and you'll save some money? You always have the option to let it ride by betting later on the 15 out of 15 you already had won. So Russ's question, am I missing something here? Why do they cash out before the Monday night game if they wanted the Monday night game in the parlay in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great question because
It is.
why cash out? And the fact is, you should never cash out. Okay, the only way that you should cash out. So I'll talk about a little bit about the math behind hedging and making the plays. Number one, these are lotto tickets. Lotto tickets. These are not ways to bet if you're trying to sustainably bet long term and try to. These are straight lotto tickets. This is the same as going to the lottery and trying to hit your numbers, trying to hit the Powerball.
Great.
But when you get to that point, the only time you should really ever hedge on a bet like that or a parlay or anything like that, or if you have a big future, is if you, number one, could really like lock in profit at a big number. So like, for instance, in golf, we just talked about, if you know that a guy is in a playoff one-on-one, it's one winner versus another winner, and you got this huge profit locked in, you really can't, you don't want to lose money on a ticket. So you got to come back the other way. Or you hedge if it's life-changing money. So maybe this ticket, this $5 is about to pay $50,000. Well, the problem is the way to get it back on the other side is you want to bet like $20,000 so you could lock in either $30,000 or you can get $20,000. Problem is not a lot of people have $20,000 sitting around, number one. Number two, not a lot of people have a way to get that much money down on a bet because a lot of books won't take that. So it's kind of a catch-22. So you do want to find a way to hedge that. And the cash out button is usually the easiest way to get the money into your accounts because you're like, you see that amount, you're like, I need that money in my account. And then the team ends up winning, you're like, oh my gosh. I would recommend hedging in that situation. And really, if you look at like Mattress Mac, who's betting $77 million on it, the fact is he's hedging his bets because he has a promotion. If the Astros win the World Series, he gives out free mattresses, which is his business. Well, so he won that much money betting on the team, but he lost that much money in his business. So it's kind of
he can't lose,
right? And if he loses the bet, well, now he just made all this profit because everyone bought a mattress from him. So it's kind of like he's not taking it. Well, he's got capital. So that's kind of where you like call and say like, hey, listen, I got this. I want to play this. I'm either going to win one side or the other. And with sports betting so legal now and kind of accepted, that's where the cash out button is not mathematically in your favor though. And it's true. If you have all intentions to go 15 to 15 and not play the Monday night, leave it off and just play an all Sunday parlay or whatever like that. But then you're probably going to get the urge to cash out by Sunday night. You know, there's always that one left that you want to get the urge to.
Yes.
That's why people cash out.
Yes.
Why it is because you just can't get your hands on the cash. If you can, right, you definitely want to play a little bit back so you get some money in it. It's because you've earned the right to take a payday.
Yes. And Ressa, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Ressa, because it's a fantastic question. I just want to point out one thing, and then I'll let Tudor chime in here if he has a thought on this. Ressa, you're also seeing the one ticket a weekend that went 15 out of 15, right? These companies aren't showing you the thousands and thousands and thousands of tickets that absolutely lost going 2 out of 15 and whatever. So they've cleaned house on the thousands of other tickets. They're showing you the one winner of the weekend. Tudor, do you want to add something to this or am I moving on, buddy?
Yeah, you guys both hit everything perfectly. $5 parlay isn't gonna get you life-changing money anyway, unless you did a lot of upsets. And if you did a lot of upsets, then yeah, maybe you consider cashing out and hedging because that's life-changing money. But other than that, it's probably 2, 3, 4K if you did mostly favorites. But moving on, I'm not the betting like these guys.
Like Ian said, it's a lotto ticket. It's fun playing for a little. Jason Richardson asks, how can the Pac-12, soon to be the Pac-10, do a better job in scheduling to have a better shot at securing a playoff spot in the current college football playoff format?
Jason,
Tudor?
I think Jason, Arizona fan. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember Jason. Personally, I don't think I don't think they have to change anything right now. Oregon had their shot against Georgia. USC had their shot against Notre Dame. Utah had their shot against Florida. Washington scheduled a good Michigan State team at the beginning of the season. Thought they were good. Right now, Oregon did make it once. Stanford, USC, and Oregon were all there another year. They were 1 year off. They're losing another game that they shouldn't lose. So I think they're doing what they're supposed to do in a in a current format. They're not finishing with one loss. They're scheduling the right game. There's nothing they can do differently. If they move the 10 teams, if USC and UCLA were to leave, then I would suggest they get that big game on their schedule. But maybe the Pac-10 could get cute and do their own 4-team playoff at the end of the season with their 4 top
Interesting.
teams, so that maybe, who they're going to have left right now. They'll still have Oregon. They'll still have Utah.
We had that this weekend.
So, yeah. So let's say their 4 best team. Hey, we're going to do a 4-team playoff. And maybe whoever wins that can come out looking pretty good. But when it's the 12-team playoff, it's not going to matter. The champ will get in, maybe even second place.
Ian?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe UCLA had a big game scheduled this year, and I think the other team might have backed out of it. It might be a team that you like to cheer for.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because
Oh.
yes, at that time that Michigan backed out, Hawaii were the bowl team and UCLA wasn't. So
Okay.
Michigan was trying to get a better team.
Got it.
Yeah, no, honestly, the Pac-12 is doing what they have to do. Like, they're scheduling, they're going on the road, they're playing home and homes. Next year, Florida's going to Utah. Utah went to Florida. USC's got to cross over with Notre Dame every year. UCLA, they're trying to branch out, and that's what they're doing. The problem, Oregon played the game with Georgia. The problem is just not winning the games. They're just not as good. That's kind of the reality of it now. Now, the best thing that can happen for the Pac-12 this year is USC beats Notre Dame and makes the playoff, because now you got the best team, best talent with the best coach making it there. And now what they've had this year is a good run at down. Oregon losing really hurts because they could have made it back. UCLA losing hurts because they're kind of, you can't. What you realize is when you don't have the depth at the top that some of these teams have, is you don't have the margin of error. So when you lose the early games, you can't lose in conference to when you're 20-point favorites, and that happened twice this weekend. And that's what's really going to hurt you. Like, you could lose as a 3-point underdog in an overtime game when the team goes for 2, like USC did against one of the better teams. That's fine. You still got a chance, especially when you play other teams, when you could win it yourself. You can't lose those teams in those games in conference. You got to pull them out like USC pulled it out against Oregon State. So they're doing what they got to do. They're just not as good. And the problem is they're not as good because they don't get the recruits, because they're on later at night. Now they've moved up those games. They're not playing the after dark games as much. They're playing during the day. They're playing in the morning. They're playing, in the primetime slots, which is what they're going to do. And they're going to get more recruits. But the problem is the 2 big brands, the UCLA, USC, get good, and then they're about to leave. So it doesn't really help. They might turn into a kind of this, maybe try to talk about the Mountain West and like focus on basketball kind of deal, which is going to be really sad for a lot of those schools. And then you mentioned like a Final Four thing. I believe the Sun Belt, I can't remember if it's the Sun Belt or Conference USA. They do that. They reserve the scheduling for the last 2 weeks. They don't set the schedule at all, and they do that, and they have the top teams play it out to try to get the best. And what the push is to try to get like a team like Coastal Carolina, who would be undefeated or 1 loss, to try to get them a push into the Power 5, the BCS bowl game, because that's going to get the money for the conference. So they started to do that. And when the Pac-12 switched from divisions and just went top 2 teams, that's a good idea, because then you get that other team that last game. So USC will now have to play Oregon, potentially, or UCLA or Utah again, and then have another chance to impress. So if they go out and they win and they beat Notre Dame and then they beat Utah, now they've beaten every team on their schedule, you can't leave them out of the playoffs. So they're doing what they have to do. I don't know what's going to happen with conferences. We'll talk about, I think we have a question about that. I just don't know what's going to happen with conferences when USC and UCLA leave, because and Texas and Oklahoma are leaving to go to the SEC. So what's going to happen with conferences? Is it going to be 4, 2, 3? I don't know. Big East kind of just folded. They made up a basketball only conference. I don't know what's going to happen.
Jason Richardson, great question there. Thank you. All right. We asked our great fans, how can we fix college football? I am going to give you 4 different thoughts, and then I'm going to throw it to the tutor and Ian and myself, and we'll all chime in. Daniel Gawronski thought, fixing college football to me is giving each conference winner a shot in the playoffs. So he wants 10 conference, excluding the independent, and 6 at large. He wants a 16-team playoff for the championship. Brian Laroff wants a 12-team playoff. For the top 4 teams get buys. First 2 rounds on campus sites with the better seed getting to play at home. And he wants to mandate the league champions and add some at-large picks. Raisa Farsi, again, since they are expanding to a 12-team playoff soon, would be, I think, to get rid of some of the smaller bowls and just do a 16-team tournament, similar to the NIT for the top 16 teams that don't make it in. This is an interesting one. Rissa, I see where they're going with this. The 12-team playoff is going to be 4 rounds anyway, so you might as well let the other 16 teams play another 4 rounds as well. It creates much more meaningful non-conference games and allows the playoff committee to gauge for future years which conferences are actually better than the others. Tommy Connolly also wants an 8-team playoff, and they aren't associated with any of the bowls. Now, I know I threw a lot at you there. There's some great ideas and information there. Who wants to go first on any of those ideas and your own?
Yeah, so we got the 12-team playoff set up in a couple of years, where it's the conference champions and then some at-larges and a non-power school gets in. That's that'll be a lot better because that's going to give a little bit more margin for error. I've heard the arguments, well, the bowl games matter for most schools. Kansas making a bowl game matters. UConn making a bowl game this year matters. That's a big deal to them.
Yeah.
Getting that extra game.
Making it. Playing it doesn't matter.
Well, making it, but getting the chance to play in December in a showcase game, that matters. It doesn't matter to Alabama or Florida or Michigan. It just doesn't as much. This year it might matter for Florida a little bit more considering what's been, but maybe next year it's not going to matter as much. What bowl game, depending what bowl game it is. And with the NFL draft, people sitting out, and you can't blame them, especially what happened with Matt Corral getting hurt playing in it. You can't blame the kids for sitting out. So how do you make it more meaningful? The whole crack that I heard, these kids, they can't travel in school and academics. Well, why do these smaller schools? Why does D1, what are D2 and FCS and D1 AA with 0 budgets and D3 with 0 budgets travel all around? And
they figured it out.
Flights, and they get on buses and they go full playoffs. And you got these big schools in NCAA paying for it. They could charter planes. They could get people in there the day before, out the day after, miss 0 school time. Such a crack. Host games on campus. That's the big thing. Host this 16 teams. Host the game on campus. And you know what? When with the USC and UCLA going to the Midwest and Texas going to the Southeast, what's a conference anyway? Get rid of conferences. These teams, travel is nothing. Travel is nothing anymore for these schools. For these schools, travel is nothing. And you know what? If you're a non-power conference, you got to stick with what the FCS does and have your own championship. Because you're still D1 and you still can get paid to that, but you're not going to have a chance, unfortunately. It's so hard to break through. UCF goes undefeated, can't get anything. Even TCU, shout out to our boy Campbell, line movers. I know he's TCU interested in it and asking about the crazy situation because he wants to see TCU in it. they went undefeated and they got left out. The committee is saying you need to win every single game or you get left out. That is such a thin margin of error. You can't gain anything. Like there's not going to be a breakthrough, like an 8 seed middle of the road UNC team get to the finals like we had last year in college basketball, because it's just not set up that way. So my solution, and I love these suggestions, they're great because people are obviously, this is what we want to see as fans. I say, get rid of conferences, schedule your games, play your games. The tournaments, the college basketball tournaments where the teams just play each other are great and they travel.
Yeah.
Play the games, get your top 16 teams at the end. Maybe it spreads out recruiting and money is there. NIL, I think is going to be a game changer for the good. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out how the best players can get on the field playing the best teams and let's compete. And unfortunately, I don't know an answer. And unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to get a good answer. That's my 2 cents. It's hard. It's a tough question because it's the best product with the richest history, but the worst championship decider.
Tudor.
Yeah, I don't know how a company NCAA doesn't have like a 64-man tournament. Don't they like money, right? But obviously that would be watered down. Even I think 16 would be watered down too. I'd be fine with 8, 12, fine. 4 buys is perfect. I think you should reward the 4 best team. I'm gonna do one better, Ian, and maybe I've been watching too much Welcome to Wrexham, but why not what soccer does? Win your tier and you move up a tier. So maybe the first tier is 32 teams. That's your Alabama, that's your Michigan, that's your USC, that's your top tier team. And you have another tier of 32. And maybe the top 4 team of the second tier move up, and then the tier move down, and then you have the lower tiers. So, but with NIL and all that stuff, you can pay these teams more money based on where they are in the tier, just like they do in soccer, right? So each of these tiers will have their own playoffs. So you'll have the national championship, you'll have the second tier championship, but those guys get to move on. They get to move to the next tier. So I know that'll never happen. I didn't even know anything about that until I watched all these soccer shows now. The Welcome to Wrexham and the funny one on HBO, whatever it's called. That's funny, but that sounds like a hell of an idea. Like
I like that idea actually. I think I do like that idea. I think that's a good idea.
Very interesting. But
like Ian said, schedule your own team. Don't schedule your own team. Have the NCAA make the schedule for you. You're in a tier of 32 teams. They will make it for you based on the 32 teams. You're not gonna play MAC team anymore. You're gonna only play team in your tier. And if you suck, you're gonna move down a tier. I mean, plain and simple, and you should.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone for sending in your questions. They've all been wonderful, really thought-provoking, great questions. If we didn't get to yours, my fault. I apologize. We will get to them next time. But thank you to all the fans for sending in the great questions. For Ian Robbins and the tutor.
Before we go, let's just hit on this because we still got college football this week. We still don't know what in the world's going on with the playoffs. I know a lot of people ask us craziest playoff situation. What's our playoff scenario? Yeah. A couple of guys in our line movers asked us that question. What's going on with that? Whoa. Craziest likely playoff scenario, crazy playoff scenario. David, I'm going to throw it back to you.
The crazy one I'm sticking with is the SEC versus the Big Ten. If we could get Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, and Michigan, Ohio State play next week, a crazy, crazy game, goes down to the wire. LSU is going to need to lose for this to happen. TCU is going to need to lose for this to happen. If that does, and that Michigan game is great, I could see this being an SEC Big Ten showdown. Most likely, I thought TCU was going to have trouble last week with Texas. Now, and Baylor looked terrible. But TCU still not only got to win this one versus Baylor, Baylor will be ready. They got Iowa State at home next week, not an easy layup. Then they got the Big 12 championship. So they still have 3 tough games. They got over one hurdle in Texas, 3 more to come. I agree, Ian, you brought it up earlier. Why does Alabama with 1 loss get it's fine, no problem. Bama 1 loss in the championship. Georgia can lose in the SEC title to LSU. They're fine. They're in. So why doesn't TCU get the benefit of the doubt? I'm not a horned frog. I didn't go there, but I agree with their fan base. Why does everyone get 1 loss except them? It just isn't fair. It's not balanced properly. When the SEC gets to lose a game and it's the SEC, it's impossible. They're fine. They're the best. They're in. But TCU can't lose. Michigan, if they lose, they're out. Why? Why isn't everyone on the same level here? The SEC can lose a game or 2 and they're still fine. I'm still hearing people telling me Alabama should get in with 2 losses as long as LSU loses. It's crazy to me. I hope TCU runs the table and gets in. They've had a great story. Sonny Dykes has done an incredible job. What I would like to see, I'd like to see Georgia. I'd like to get a team in out west, so I'd take USC. I'll take the Ohio State Michigan winner and TCU for my 4th.
Yeah, I think the most likely is actually going to be two SEC and two Big Ten. I actually think that's going to be the most likely. My wild scenario would be TCU obviously losing again, and Tennessee somehow loses again. And USC drafts to Notre Dame, and North Carolina out of nowhere.
Wow.
Out of nowhere.
Shout out.
Flip-
Trey.
Wow.
And we got a new Heisman winner coming if that happens.
Wow. Have you been talking to Trey lately, Tudor? What's going on here? I thought our Tar Heel was out on the injured list. He's back. Ian, what do you got?
Yeah, I think your likely scenario is I think that you're going to get a TCU or USC team in. I think if TCU loses one of their next 2 games, wins the Big 12, coupled with a USC loss, at some point, I think they're going to get a benefit of the doubt there. As long as there's 4 clear-cut teams being Tennessee, Georgia, and then the Ohio State, Michigan winner. I think that the crazy situation is all those teams win. Overtime game with Michigan, Ohio State. LSU beats Georgia.
Craziness.
Then what? Now LSU, I don't think they should have any stake to claim because the 2 teams that they got 2 losses. Number 1, I know lost at the beginning of the season, but they lost to Tennessee. I don't care if you win the conference title. You lost to the team. Now, I know that past performances said otherwise. Now, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. Now you got the same conversation they had with Tennessee. So why should one of those teams not get in because they're not playing in the conference title game? USC, TCU. Who gets in there? TCU should be in. So now USC with 1 loss, a 1 point going for 2 loss to a team that's ranked inside the top 15 on the road as an underdog after they beat Notre Dame, UCLA, and probably Oregon. Why not do they get in? What's the scenario there? And now the ACC is totally wiped out of it all. So I think that will create the chaos and the push for we need more teams in because it's kind of just flat out garbage that we don't have the more teams in at that point. The straightforward scenario is one of those 2 team loses.
Yeah,
and USC,
I mean,
TCU
they would do LSU Georgia, right? They'd have to.
I don't know. I don't think LSU gets in with 2 losses.
LSU Georgia, Ohio State, maybe Tennessee, maybe you have 3.
It's just that would be the crazy scenario to me because then you're leaving all these tables, all this money, everything on the line to people making a decision. And it's not decided on the field. And that just seems wrong.
We're eventually going to get to this playoff with 8 or 12 teams, and everyone's going to be like, why didn't we do this 50 years ago? Well, what took so long?
Right.
Like you said, Division II has figured it out for 30 years. They
But
got
when-
32 teams.
When we get to 12 teams, though, then that 13th team gonna be like, what the
Yeah.
hell? Why
Well, it's
didn't
like
the
the bubble,
you
it's
know, like
it's
why
like
did the
bubble.
ninth SEC team get in? The
Yeah,
ninth.
right. Yeah, it's like the bubble or anything like that. Obviously, you're gonna have like every conference is gonna get represented. The bottom, the non-power school is gonna get represented there. You're gonna have at-larges. You're gonna have home games or as rewards. So you'll have a lot of things in place. But it's true. All you're doing is showing biases to conferences. I mean, TCU was undefeated, got left out. Okay, Ohio State gets in and they run through everybody. Yeah, but they shouldn't have been there based on the criteria. That's the thing. Like, even my fondest memories being out of Florida over Ohio State championship game, they backed in because Ohio State beat Michigan in a crazy 1-2 battle. And the debate was, well, they should just play again in the national title game. And the BCS said that Florida gets in and then Florida wins by 40. Well, yeah, obviously they deserve it, but it maybe not on paper, because Florida lost earlier.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So hey, remind me, does a non-power 5 team is guaranteed as an at-large? Or no?
In the-
Because I was
in the-
trying to research that today.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because they call it, what do they call it? They call it the
Non-power five.
Group of 5.
Group of five.
Group of 5, but
Non-power, yeah. They're going to get one spot.
the group of 5 is the non-power 5 group.
Yes.
Okay. So who if not Central Florida, anybody else?
Well, Tulane, it looks like, is going to get another shot at Central Florida. They're going to probably play in a rematch because they have it correct. And they play their conference championship, the 2 best teams. So it looks like Tulane and Central Florida is on a collision course to play again.
What
Yeah,
about Notre Dame? So do we figure out if
Notre
independent
Dame's
don't
not in
count?
that. Notre Dame's power.
Okay. And then UTSA?
UTSA does have it, but usually those Conference USA Sun Belt teams they have to go undefeated. If you don't go undefeated, Boise is picking up, but the fact that Tulane and UCF are winning and ranked, and they're going to play each other in the conference championship game, it's going to be a play-in game. That game's going to be played at UCF. They're going to get the benefit of hosting that game because of the win at Tulane earlier last week.
Most likely against the ACC team.
They'll get into usually they're locked into a certain bowl game. I think it's whatever bowl game is hosting the title game. Whatever bowl game hosts the title game usually gets that team.
And to your point, Tudor, one of our listeners, followers that sent in their question said, let's go to 16 teams and give a spot to every conference winner. I'm not against it. Let's let them all in. Let's play.
Well, if you're going to do that, then you have the buy-in game with the 4 lesser conferences.
Right.
Fine.
That's fine. And as long as the better team get buys.
Let them in.
Yes.
Let's see them play.
Good job. All right.
Great job. Great discussion. The Line Movers Network. Follow us all year long. Great talk. Thank you for sending in the questions.
Thanks, everyone. A lot of fun. Happy birthday, Tudor.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.